You know that weird moment when you're supposed to be doing something normal, and instead you're standing in your kitchen at 11:40 p.m., moving the same 3 mugs around like you're solving a hostage negotiation, not because the mugs are dirty, not because they're in the way, just because something feels off. So you shift one to the left, then the taller one to the back. Then the colors have to balance. Then suddenly you're reorganizing the spice rack, refolding towels, deleting old screenshots, renaming computer folders, and lining up your pens like your sanity depends on it. And the worst part? A tiny part of you knows this should not feel as good as it does. But it does. It feels calming, sharp. And if someone walks in and says, "Why are you doing all that?" you don't even know how to explain it. Because I don't know, the room felt emotionally incorrect, sounds unhinged. But this is the part I need you to hear. You are not crazy. You are not broken. And no, you are not just being weird for fun. Some people reorganize because they like neat spaces, but some people reorganize because their brain is trying to create order faster than their emotions can explain why they need it. That is a very different thing. For some people, reorganizing is not really about the objects. It's about control. It's about control. Not in a toxic, controlling other people kind of way. More like, my inner world feels loud and slippery and I need one part of reality to stay still for 5 seconds. And honestly, that makes a lot more
sense than people realize. Because the human brain hates uncertainty.
It really hates chaos. And when life feels unpredictable, the mind starts looking for patterns, systems, categories, structure, anything it can hold on to. There's actually a term for part of this, cognitive closure. That's just a fancy way of saying your brain wants resolution. It wants things to make sense. It wants the mental tabs closed. It wants the emotional browser to stop running 47 windows at once. For some people, that urge shows up as asking lots of questions. For others, it shows up as overthinking every text message like it's evidence in a murder trial. And for some of us, it shows up as reorganizing the bookshelf by color, then author, then emotional vibe, because apparently alphabetizing wasn't enough to silence the void. There's also something else going on. Executive function. That's the brain's management system, the part that helps you plan, sort, prioritize, and organize information. You can think of it like the internal project manager in your head. And in people who are especially perceptive, anxious, sensitive, or intelligent, that system can become incredibly active. You notice more, you track more, you pick up on tiny irregularities other people just glide past. The crooked frame, the cluttered desktop, the drawer where batteries, receipts, and random charger cables go to die. Your brain doesn't just see disorder, it feels it, like a song playing slightly out of tune in the next room. Other people can ignore it. You can't. Because when your mind is wired for patterns, disorder doesn't look neutral. It looks unfinished. And unfinished things pull at you. That's why some highly intelligent people obsessively reorganize. Not because they're shallow or obsessive in some cartoonish way, but because their mind is constantly scanning for friction. They see inefficiency fast. They feel misalignment fast. They instinctively want to improve systems that can be a sign of intelligence. But here's the twist nobody talks about enough. It can also be a survival response. If you grew up in an environment that felt emotionally unpredictable, your brain may have learned to create safety through order. Maybe people's moods changed without warning. Maybe the rules shifted constantly. Maybe love was there, but stability wasn't. Maybe you never knew what version of someone was walking through the door. And when you live in that kind of unpredictability, your nervous system starts craving control wherever it can find it. You can't organize another person's temper. You can't sort your family's emotional chaos into labeled bins. But you can organize your desk. You can fix the closet. You can clean the kitchen until it finally reflects the calm you were never handed. So what looks like a quirky habit on the outside can actually be a brilliant adaptation. A nervous system saying, if the world won't make sense, it'll make one corner of it make sense. And honestly, that's not weakness. That's resourcefulness. That's the mind finding a way to survive without having the language for what it was surviving. A lot of people who do this are also deeply empathic, which sounds unrelated until you realize empathy means you absorb a lot. You notice tension in people's voices. You notice the energy in a room, and you notice when something feels off before anyone says a word. That kind of awareness is a gift, but gifts are heavy when nobody teaches you how to carry them. So you start managing your environment because it's easier than managing the pies. Invisible emotional static you keep absorbing. You clear your space. You sort. You stack. You align. And for one brief, glorious moment, your outside world matches the piece you wish your inside world had. That's why reorganizing can feel almost emotional, not practical. Emotional. It's not just, nice, the drawer looks better. It's I can breathe again, and that feeling is real. But there is a shadow side to it, because when order becomes the only way you know how to calm down, life gets exhausting. You start feeling responsible for every mess, not just physical mess, social mess, emotional mess, schedule mess, other people's mess. You become the one who plans, fixes, tidies, remembers, optimizes. You're not just reorganizing closets anymore. You're reorganizing dinner plans, family dynamics, group projects, and the emotional temperature of every room you walk into.
And people often praise you for it. They call you put together, disciplined,
reliable. Meanwhile, inside, you're one misplaced object away from turning into a Victorian ghost. Because the truth is, obsessive reorganization can become a disguise for chronic tension. It can look productive while quietly draining the life out of you. You tell yourself you'll relax after everything is in the right place, but everything is never fully in the right place, is it? There's always one more shelf, one more file, one more drawer, one more area of life that could be cleaner, smarter, tighter, safer. So, rest keeps getting delayed. Joy keeps getting delayed. Your nervous system keeps negotiating with peace like it's a difficult landlord. And over time, that does something to you. It can make you impatient, rigid, quietly resentful. It can make you feel weirdly alone because other people don't understand why. Disorder bothers you so much. They think you just like things neat. They don't see the mental static. They don't see how hard your brain works to create calm from fragments. And maybe you don't fully see it either. Maybe you just thought this was your personality. Maybe you thought you were too much, too intense, too particular, too sensitive, too controlling. But sometimes, what we call too much is just an intelligent nervous system stuck in overprotection mode. That matters. Because once you understand that, you stop shaming yourself for the habit, and then you can finally ask the better question. Not why am I like this, but what is this habit doing for me? That question changes everything. Because if reorganizing helps you regulate, then the goal is not to rip it away. The goal is to make sure it's not your only doorway to relief. The next time you feel that sudden urge to reorganize everything, try pausing long enough to ask yourself what feels out of order inside you, not as a judgment. Honest, just with curiosity. Am I overwhelmed? Am I anxious? Did something happen today that made me feel powerless? Did I get overstimulated? Did I feel criticized, dismissed, or emotionally crowded? Sometimes the drawer isn't the issue. Sometimes the drawer is the decoy. Another thing to remember is that your brain may need structure, but structure doesn't always have to mean perfection. Sometimes it means simple rituals, making tea slowly, taking a short walk without your phone, writing down the 3 thoughts spinning in your head, cleaning one small area on purpose instead of launching into a 4-hour spiral where you accidentally reorganize your entire identity. That difference matters because intentional calming says, I am caring for myself. Compulsive fixing says, I am not allowed to rest until everything is solved. Those are not the same, and one is much kinder to live with. It also helps to build tolerance for small amounts of disorder, not because mess is morally superior now. Let's not get dramatic, but because your nervous system deserves evidence that you can be safe even when everything isn't perfectly arranged. That might mean leaving one shelf imperfect, letting one email wait, allowing the towels to be folded like a normal human instead of a museum curator. With trauma, tiny acts like that can teach your brain something powerful. Control is comforting, but it is not the same thing as safety. And the more you learn that, the less your peace depends on constant correction. You also deserve to notice the strength inside this habit, because yes, it can come from anxiety, but it can also reveal some beautiful things about you. You see patterns others miss. You care about harmony. You have an instinct for improvement. You can bring order to complexity. You can turn chaos into clarity. That is not small, and that is a real ability. The work is just learning how to use that gift without letting it use you. Let it help you create beauty. Let it help you solve problems. Let it help you build a life that feels supportive. But don't let it become the price of admission for peace, because you are allowed to exist in an unfinished room. You are allowed to be loved in a half-organized life. You are allowed to rest before every corner is corrected. And maybe that's the deeper healing here. Not becoming someone who no longer needs order, but becoming someone who no longer needs perfect order to feel okay. So if you've ever reorganized a drawer, a room, a desktop, or your entire apartment just to feel emotionally normal again, no, you're not ridiculous. Your brain was trying to help. It just may have learned that control is the fastest route to calm. And now you get to teach it something gentler. You can create order without worshipping it. You can love structure without becoming trapped inside it. And you can be brilliantly observant without turning your whole life into one endless correction. So now I am curious. What's the most absurd thing you've ever reorganized just because life felt off? And if this hit a little too close to home, stay with me. We're building a language for the patterns most people never notice.